Spring is finally here. We're on the Delaware River. We got a fairly warm day today. We're going to see if we can catch some fish. Stay tuned. Hi, I'm Bob Murray, and welcome to a springtime edition of Delaware Valley Outdoors. I'm on the river today, on the Delaware River. It's early spring. We have a good break in the weather. We have temperatures, we've got probably going to be in the mid-60s today. And this is probably that first exploratory outing that you're going to take. We're going to be trying to catch some walleye. There's some shad in the river. They've been coming up, and I think we'll see some shad, guys fishing for shad pretty soon, and for some smallmouth. What I'm trying to do today is basically just see what the fish are doing. What are they telling me? Water temp is in the mid-40s. I'd like it to see a little bit warmer, but we've had a little bit of cold nights, and the air temperature is still warm, but the nighttime temperature has fallen so that we lose the heat out of the water. But one of the lures that I'm going to be using today a lot is a jig. I think this is probably one of the most universal baits that you can use, especially in the springtime. Now, if we were bass fishing for largemouth and we had a little bit warmer temperatures, we'd be using a jig also, but we call it a jig and pig. It'd be a jig with a piece of pork rind and either hair or like a live rubber skirt on it, and I'll show you that in a little bit. But today, basically, it's a 1/4 ounce jig with a twister tail. I like to use the pearl twister tail because I think it really shows what a minnow would look like. It imitates a minnow, and that's what I want. Walleye hit this bait, smallmouth hit this bait. As a matter of fact, a lot of times I'll even catch a carp on this bait, which is kind of an odd thing, but carp will actually suck these up because you're moving them along the bottom. How I'm going to be working it, I have 6-foot medium light action rod, 4-pound test, and this jig. And what I'm going to be doing is working the slower areas, the slower pockets with this jig, trying to see what the fish are going to do today. So let's see what we can do. What I'm doing today is just working a jig, 1/4 ounce jig, into this water. Now, you got to remember that the water's cold and the fish are not that active yet, okay? So we want to work our baits real slow. I think one of the major problems that a lot of guys have when they're fishing for either walleye or smallmouth, especially in the springtime, is they move their bait a little bit too quickly. So what I try to do is let my bait just move down the river. I try to find these pockets where the fish are going to be resting, because a lot of times the fish, they don't want to be out in that faster water. They're a cold-blooded animal. Their metabolism is real slow. Water temperature is only in the 40s, so they're not really actively feeding yet. Once it gets up into that 50, 55 degree range, then you'll see some more activity and they'll be starting to eat more because of their metabolism. So what you want to do is you just want to present that bait very slowly in front of them. So it takes a little bit of time. But what you want to do is just be working your bait right along the bottom. You want to be swimming it just about maybe 2 feet, if I can give you a visual thing, about 2 feet above the bottom. And you just want to be hopping that real slow and just swimming it back. You want to just have that bait swimming real slow, and you want to cast, well, we got a little bit of wind here, it's a little bit more difficult to see, but you want to stay in the shallow water or in the calm water in the back eddies and cast to the edge of the faster water. And what that does, you'll be able to work your jig. It won't be pulled down river so much, but yet you want to cast it up a little bit and then just work it down towards you. And the river will definitely take it with you, but you want to work it real slow. Make sure that jig is bouncing on the bottom. I've lost a number of jigs already today, and that's because I just want to keep it on the bottom, just bouncing it off the bottom. And again, make sure that you follow that fast water line and fish the edge of that. And you could also fish it when it's getting to be evening time. Get out those bango lures in Fire Tiger and start fishing these edges on the shoreline and fish the edges. Huh. Guess what? It just bit me off. Felt the hit? Gone. Huh. While on the water, we were visited by our local waterways patrol. They were not only checking for proper personal flotation and fishing licenses, but checking out their new jet drive. Many lives have been lost because of improper life jackets. Make sure you have the proper personal flotation on board. Make sure it's accessible. Use it. You know, boat positioning is very important when you're fishing, especially in the springtime. You can see that we're really not that far off of the bank. What I do, I have myself anchored here, which is important to have a very good anchor with you. But what I'm doing is I'm just anchoring right off the edge, because what I found here, we have a little eddy that kicks out from above, and it's a little pool. It's got some faster water on the outside of it, but that's where the fish are going to be laying, up in these pools. These little back eddies, and if you can pick a little small one like I have right here, you'd be surprised how many fish you're going to catch. So you don't have to be really far out into the river for a lot of good fishing. Make sure that you can position your boat and fish this little edge here. It's important that you get your depth finder and see where the deep water comes up, and you fish that edge. I think you're going to catch more fish. Stay tuned for more springtime fishing tips on Delaware Valley Outdoors.
Bucks County Outfitters is one of the largest selections of fishing equipment in Upper Bucks, including rods, reels, tackle, live bait, fly fishing, saltwater supplies, and licenses. Bucks County Outfitters will repair your broken rod or reel and will buy your complete used tackle boxes, rods, reels, and lures. Not just for the fishermen, Bucks County Outfitters features a full-service deli with delicious breakfast sandwiches, plus steaks and hoagies. Bucks County Outfitters is open Tuesday through Sunday starting at 5 a.m., located on Route 313 and Fifth Streets, Percy.
Hi, this is Bob Murray. Delaware Valley Outdoors is now on the internet. Our internet address is www.dvoutdoors.com. Visit Delaware Valley Outdoors for the latest in regional fishing reports, weather conditions, maps, pros tips, and product updates. Why not visit us on the web?
It may be winter outside, but you don't have to stop swinging. Come to All American Sports on North Main Street in Dublin this winter. We offer a climate-controlled facility with 11 hitting stations, a large putting green, a chipping green with sand trap, and swing analysis. So to get you swinging right for spring or that long-awaited golf vacation, come to All American Sports and sign up for private lessons or golf clinics for all levels of golfers from our professional staff. It doesn't have to be perfect weather outside, because it's always perfect inside at All American Sports.
Searching for personalized service and one-stop shopping for all your hunting and fishing needs? Then come to Tanner's Gun and Sports Center. Tanner's offers a wide variety of hunting and fishing gear, featuring guns, rifles, a complete line of rods and reels, live bait, tackle, archery supplies, and hunting and fishing apparel. Tanner's is also your stop for guns bought, sold, and traded. In addition, be sure to check out Tanner's innovative indoor archery range with on-screen video scoring to help you improve your bow and arrow hunting. Tanner's Gun and Sports Center in Jamison, 343-3103.
Let's just take a minute and talk about some other things that you should prepare yourself for spring fishing. You know, besides fishing tips for the spring, I want to talk to you a little bit about getting your boat prepared to go on the water. First thing I'd like to talk about, spare tire. It's a proven fact that boats who don't carry spare tires have more flat tires than boats that have a spare tire. Make sure you carry a spare tire, make sure it has plenty of air and it's in good condition. Let me show you this. Here's a tire here. Look at this. This tire here almost exploded because it was underinflated, okay, and it was not properly taken care of. Make sure you take care of your air pressure, check your lug nuts, make sure they're tight. These things have a tendency to loosen up over the winter, heat back and forth, you're trailering it. Make sure before that first time you go out, I know you get excited, I get excited, make sure that you check the air pressure in your tires. Another thing, do not use radial car tires on your boat, okay? The tires that we have here are radial, but they are radial trailer tires. Very, very important that you do that. Do not use a regular radial car tire on your boat. It does not work. It's dangerous. So again, I don't want this to happen to you. It's very dangerous. We don't have accidents. Make sure that your tires are inflated. Make sure that they're in good condition. And if not, save yourself a whole lot of trouble and get yourself some new tires. Okay. Another thing that I'd like to talk about, your winch. Make sure that's in good condition. Okay. I know we've all heard the stories about the winches failing and boats falling off the back of trailers. Don't let this happen to you. Make sure your winch is in good condition, well lubricated. Make sure that your tie-down strap here is in good condition. Make sure you have a safety chain also with it. Okay? Those are important things that you should have when it comes to trailering your boat. I know you get excited, but these things deteriorate. Make sure this is in good condition. It's not very much money, but you'll be surprised what you're going to save just by that. Make sure your safety cables are strong and sturdy. You want that. That's going to attach this boat to your truck or car. Make sure they're in good condition too. Make sure they're not rusty or anything like that. Good heavy ones too. Another thing I'd like to talk about on a boat for safety is your fire extinguisher. Check your fire extinguisher to make sure it's charged. Make sure it's easily accessible. Yes, you might have it, but it probably is in one of the lockers under about 34 pounds of tackle and ropes and stuff like that. And in an emergency, you're going to need to get this very quickly. I have mine mounted right underneath the console of my boat where it's easy to get to. It's not in any obstructed way, and I can get it. And make sure it has a good, solid marine mount to it too. Okay, don't just have these things flopping around in the boat. Make sure it has a good mount, a solid mount, and make sure you can always check for the charge. You can go get them recharged, but I'm telling you, if you ever have a problem and you need to put that fire out, don't be looking for one of these. Make sure you have it readily available to you. Okay. Speaking of, we spoke about tires before. One thing that I want to talk to you about, not only that you should have your tires in good condition, but you also should check for your wheel bearings. Very important thing. I know a lot of times you're going down the road, you'll see a trailer and a boat on the side of the road with that wheel on its side. Why? Failed wheel bearings. Make sure you check, pull your cap off, or if you have bearing buddies, wheel bearing, greasing things, make sure you grease them. Matter of fact, if you have a chance before you go out, pull that bearing out, grease it with good grease, pack the bearings. You will not be disappointed. That's one thing that you must be very careful of. If you're trailering at a high speed, those bearings will burn out and you're on the side of the road with a big problem. So make sure you lubricate your bearings. If you have bearing buddies, make sure they have. And also, take along a grease tube with you. It's always easy. You can just, nice little kits nowadays where you can put the marine lube in here and grease those bearings. Before you start out the first time, make sure they're greased. Your rear tie downs are very important. This one here, just for demonstration purposes, I want to show you, it's too loose. They have to be tight, okay? Make sure they're in good condition. There's a variety of tie downs on the market, ratchet type. This is just a lever type. But make sure that you tighten these up a little bit, and when you get them down, just tighten this up a little bit. Make sure they're really good and tight. You don't want them to be moving around. Make sure they're in good condition. These are very inexpensive. They get in and out of the weather. Make sure that they're in good condition. You don't want these things breaking when you're on the road. Just another springtime tip to get you ready to go fishing. Another tip that I like to just give you, make sure that you check your steering cables. A lot of accidents have occurred because of failed steering cables. Okay? Make sure they're well lubed, make sure they're in good condition, and before you actually start that motor, make sure that your steering lines and all your cables are well lubed and in good condition. Last thing you want to do is get this big thing running and not be able to steer. A lot of people have had accidents that way. I don't want to see it happen to you. Just another tip for you. Make sure your steering cables are in good order. The Tackle Box is sponsored by Durstein Lures. Locally made, locally tested. All right, we're going to do the Tackle Box section of the show right now. And I want to talk about some of the lures that we did use today and some of the lures that later on in the springtime you should use. First lure that we used today was just your basic 1/4 ounce jig with a twister tail. Okay, now I like the pearl, not white, but pearl. I know everybody's heard me 1,000 times say that, but I'm telling you, that pearl color makes a big difference because it just gives that shine of a minnow. I know some of the new baits coming out today are putting that on, and this is a perfect example of that, and it gives you that little bit of a flash, and it looks like a minnow. Again, we're using it on a 1/4 ounce jig with an Aberdeen hook, right? A very thin wire hook. Penetrates quickly, and if you get stuck on the rocks, now I've lost a bunch of these today. Okay, it was one of those things where if you're not losing jigs, you're not really fishing. I lost a lot of them, but you have to have that. A lot of times I pulled out too because this wire hook will bend. I take my pliers, bend it right back up, hit it with a stone, and I'm back in business. But remember that 1/4 ounce jig with a pearl twister tail. Another color that I like to use, and that's the chartreuse color. Okay. When the water gets a little bit dingy in the springtime here, I'll go to this. I think it's a great bait. You can use twin tail or the single tail. I like twin tail a little bit more sometimes because it really gives a little bit more action and a little bit more bulk to the bait. Again, I'll hook that right on a jig and I'll fish it. I'll also fish this off the back of a spinner bait, and we'll get to those in just a second. An excellent bait for smallmouth, and again, this is early spring. We were just out today trying a couple of things, but this bait right here, I like to call it either it's like a motor oil with a flake in it. It's a great bait for smallmouth. Again, fishing it on a jig with like a 1/4 ounce or an 1/8 ounce jig head. Fishing that, excellent. I don't care if you're in any lake or river system that has smallmouths. Here's the bait you want to have, at least some have in your boat. I do really well there with this bait, especially up at Thousand Islands. It's an excellent bait to use. we talked a little bit, oh, let me just do this one little thing here. One of the baits that we didn't get a chance to use today, but I do use, and that's I've taken a beetle spin and I've hooked an 1/8 ounce or a 1/4 ounce jig in this case, jig to it. And what I'll do is I'll hook on a live night crawler on the jig, because again it's a thin wire hook, it won't break through the worm, and I'll just have that going through the water, and if I can sort of simulate it, this goes through the water, you'll have your nice big night crawler coming off of here. Okay, you fish it on a spinning rod, light line, and just work it through these little rifts and little pools that we have here. And the walleye just love that, especially I have silver on now, but you can switch to a gold blade or the silver and just work it real slow. And what this blade does, it's a Colorado blade, allows you to work it real slow, and it gives you a little bit of attention, a little bit of flash, and boy, you'd be surprised what you can do. You don't have to use this on a river, you can also use it on a lake, okay? Lake Nakamixon, any of those places like that. Again, take your own, and I make my own up. I just buy the little heads here and the Mr. Twister thing, and that's it. I just put it right together. It makes a great little bait. And go through the water, you can work it real, real slow. And also, if you wanted to, you could also just put on a jig too. That works real nicely too. And you'll catch smallmouth galore on this lure. If you just want to take your kids out fishing, here's a great little bait that you can use for that. And again, I make them up, it's cheaper than buying them in the packages, but you can do it that way too. And just put on a twisted tail, whether it's the pearl, the chartreuse, or the motor oil. Another bait that we were using today, get it out here, was a spinnerbait. It was a real small 1/8 ounce spinnerbait. I have little Fire Tiger blades on it. These are willow leaf, and it has a gold back. I like that combination. I like the gold with the Fire Tiger on it. It's like an orangish red, you can really see. I have 2 blades on here because I want to work the bait really, really slow. One of the things you have to remember, the water's cold, and you want to work these baits slow, whether it's the jig or the spinnerbait, work them slow. With the 2 blades, it actually is easier for you to work that bait a lot slower. If you use a single blade, you're going to have to speed it up to keep it going, and it has a tendency to actually be a little too fast. And I've downsized my bait because in the springtime, the minnows and the forage that the bass are really looking for is not that big at this time. And this bait really, really does a good job. Now, you can use this in a lake system also, but I like this. And one thing that I talk about a lot, and on another show that I'm bringing out the new spinnerbait that I'm bringing out, that red color in the springtime is excellent, whether it's on crankbaits, on spinnerbaits, or rattle traps. A lot of guys don't fish red, and I think it's important that you try it. I think it's really, really important. Again, it's an 1/8 ounce. It's a real small bait. It may be a little difficult for you to throw. Now, I'm throwing it on a bait caster, but if you have trouble, it's a perfect bait for a spinning rod. You can control it, and it'll be fine, and I'm sure you do well. Again, double willow leaf in the Fire Tiger, or, I mean, I use gold also. I like the gold blades too. It's a great little bait. It's a real tiny bait, but boy, does it catch fish. And we tried this today, and I guess just the wind and the system, the front's coming through, really shut our fish down. But this does produce a lot of bass, and I'll show you when we come up to our next month's show. We'll be using some of these, and I know we're going to catch some fish on it. Now, in springtime, one bait that I really like to use, that's crankbaits. The water's going to be warming up, and this is for largemouth and smallmouth, but we'll just talk about for smallmouth in the river right now. And one of the best baits you can use is put out by Rapala, and I like this bait. I've caught I don't know how many fish on this, and it's a fat rap. It's put out by Rapala, whatever you want to call them. And it's the silver with a black back and a little bit of red right here. Matter of fact, sometimes what I'll do is I'll even put a little bit more red here. I get a little bit of nail polish on there, and I'll put it on there to get a little bit more. And what the fish do, they really focus, on that little spot there, because this bait's basically going through the water like this. It gives a really nice tight wiggle. It dives about on maybe 6 to 8 pound test line. It dives deep enough that you're going to hit the rocks, but it won't be like 10 feet, no way. But it's a great bait when the fish are up in the shallows. Especially, I've caught a lot of nice fish on Lake Galena and Lake Nakamixon using this bait later on in the season. It's a great bait. Silver blackback. Well, we didn't catch a lot of fish today. I did have that lunker on there though. Again, it's springtime. I want just to remind you to get yourself prepared for the spring fishing. Don't get yourself out there when your reels aren't ready, your boat's not ready, your trailer's not ready. Get yourself prepared. There's a lot of good fishing coming up, and I think that's one of the things that we wanted to talk about today, was just get your stuff together, get your tackle together, and get ready, because it's coming. The shad are in the river, the walleye are going to be spawning, the smallmouths are coming on. Last year was a great year for smallmouth, and I expect to be even better this year because we've had a good winter. Again, if you have any other ideas, questions, interesting things, always check us out on our website at www.dvoutdoors.com, where you can find out lists of seminars that we're giving, fishing updates. Again, if you have an update, you caught some fish, send it to us. We'd love to have you on the website. We want to hear about that stuff. It's a lot of fun. A lot of people enjoy it. We have a ton of stuff on there, tides, weather. Stop by the website and email me and say hi. Hey, this is Bob Murray. See you again on Delaware Valley Outdoors. Let's see, it might be, oh, it's a stick. But it's a nice stick. Oh. There you go. Now let's see. This stick here, I don't know. We're out of season right now. But if this were in season, I could mount this. This would be good. This is nice. It looks like, I don't know if it could be some kind of a ash. Yeah, it might be ash. But it's a nice one. It's long. Got a lot of length to it. Skinny though. They'll fatten up though. Come spawning time, they get real fat. That's a nice one. Right, yeah. Put him back for another day. Very nice.